Well, hello everyone. It's Fausta Knight here from Coach Training World, and I'm sitting here with the fantastic whole person coach, Fausta. And I have to say that it brings me extra joy, the fact that you are coming into coaching, having been in the therapy world for so long and having so much expertise. And more importantly, that you see how coaching can really support people just like you who are or I should say who like you who've worked in that trauma area, to give them, the capacity to help others. So I'm really excited about sharing you with my tribe and our ever-growing community. But I would love to know, maybe kind of help us understand what brought you into coaching, and then we'll just dive off from there.
Absolutely. So I was a therapist for a really long time, since the mid-90s, and spent a lot of time working with people who were experiencing trauma. Loved my job, did some other things along the way, ended up moving to Georgia recently, to Savannah, because it's close to the ocean, and I had always dreamed about living near the ocean. Had a job at that point that allowed me to do that, and then I began to get interested in changing my focus. And for a long time, I had wanted to do something with people, working with people who work with people who experience trauma, right? So, because I had been there, I knew what that was like, and I, of course, have my own ideas about what kinds of things might be helpful. So, once I had moved to Georgia, I discovered that my therapy license doesn't really transfer easily.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was kind of a kind of shock. But really, it just took me a minute or two to realize I had an executive coach in the position I had been in who was fabulous. And I thought, oh, okay, that would actually work. And then as I began to think about it, I realized that it would actually work really well. Because as a therapist, people always think you're going to do therapy with them, which is like this serious, intense, you diagnose people and you figure out what's wrong with them. And I'm not talking bad about that at all, right? But with coaching, it's clearly not like that. Clearly, it is about helping you figure out what you need to be able to do whatever it is that you want to do. So I've been really excited about discovering this path and shifting.
Well, I love, again, the fact that you're out there helping those who feel like they're kind of on the front line.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also imagining that just being able to offer people that probably have gotten a lot of therapy. I know, like when you train to become a therapist, you're getting a lot of it. You're giving the look, yes.
Right.
It's healthy, but just being able to offer them something that they maybe have not even experienced.
Yes.
Yep. So when people come to you,
mm-hmm.
what in general do they think that they want help with? Like, what are some of the things that they bring to as topics initially?
So often they just feel kind of overwhelmed and maybe even on the verge of feeling burnt out. Maybe they're like, they're waking up at 2 a.m. thinking about their clients, their patients. They are thinking about them on the weekends. Essentially, they can't leave the job at work anymore. And they're starting to feel like they're losing themselves in other people's pain, that they can't even take care of themselves anymore. That sense of being overwhelmed. Yeah.
And so, when you work with them, what are some of the things that you help them to sense and see?
So the first thing I try to do is just to help them reconnect with themselves, really. What happens when you're working around trauma a lot, even if it's not your own trauma, even if it's vicarious trauma, is that you're always getting kicked into fight or flight or freeze mode, right? The adrenaline starts pumping, your defensive systems go up because there's all this sort of sense of how threatening the world is, or can be. And so when that happens, it gets really hard to think because there's all this feeling, right? And so the first thing we want to do is just sort of help people. First thing I want to do is help people find their space to think again, which is why I called my site Fausta's Place to Ponder. Because there were times that was just what I needed.
Well, I would imagine, just reflecting, being with people that are traumatized and being that support person, you're carrying so much of that, even from a neurobiological stance,
Yep.
because your nervous system is co-regulating with theirs, and how could you not be impacted?
Right.
And also to have someone else's nervous system who's in a different place, like yours, to be able to be that support, nurturing place.
Yep.
Almost like you've got their backs while they have other people's backs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what else do you notice, like in terms of the process that helps them to shift things in?
Right. So once you begin to have that space, once you begin to really reconnect with who you are, then you have the opportunity to begin to figure out what you need, what's going on within yourself or around you. And that can be so many things. You know, you may realize that there are things in your life that are not really okay, but you just haven't been paying attention to. You know, maybe you haven't been doing the things that you know you enjoy doing.
Mm-hmm.
You find yourself just not doing it. And that can be anything from exercise to spending time with friends to, whatever. Um, and so beginning really to develop a plan to figure out, what do I need to do so that I don't end up in that sort of overwhelmed, can't do this space anymore? Because then what you want to do is move, once you've figured that out and have begun to add those things to your life, and it can be as dramatic as beginning meditation, or beginning to learn some mindfulness, which maybe is not really dramatic anymore. But in a sense, that's a real change, right? If you decide to add that to your life.
I would agree that for many that it feels dramatic because it feels like something that it's just not, there's not time for.
Right, right. Or it may seem too kind of woo-woo, like, really? Meditation, mindfulness? Doesn't sound like me. But, and then maybe other things, long list of possibilities. Once you've decided what you need, then you begin to see how you can engage in the work you do differently. And sometimes that means recognizing that it's not just about taking care of yourself. Sometimes it's about looking at what within the system might need to change to support the people that work there.
As you're saying that, it almost sounds like, there's the team and then maybe there's the organizational leaders that maybe you could really help them shape so that the culture.
Ideally, yes. Ideally, absolutely. And I think what may need to happen in order for that to really begin to change is that people are going to need to develop communities of their own within the system, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then move in that direction. And I would love, love, love to be able to participate in doing some of that work. Really what I envision is being able at some point to have clients kind of come together and work together to do things. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Make a real change.
Well, what I'm appreciating is right now, you're servicing people primarily one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm hearing is you're already sensing how you can take your business and make even more sustainable impact at the organizational level and to really almost create coaching cultures within, these groups. Gorgeous.
And you put that so nicely. Thanks for that. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's so important that, on one level, working with the individual, but what I'm hearing is your devotion is far deeper in terms of your commitment in the long run.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm curious, do you have any philosophies that you kind of run by, like in terms of how you think about things or how you work with people?
Oh,
I know it
well,
was a pop question.
I've been doing this kind of work for a really long time, Ferocious. I have all kinds of philosophies and
Maybe.
principles, beliefs, and ideas, right? Um, Let me picking through some of those quickly here. I really deeply believe that if we get in touch with ourself, our deepest self, right? Whatever we want to call that part of ourself, and you can call it your soul. If you do dialectical behavior therapy, you can call it wise mind, which is
Yeah.
one of my favorite principles. But that part of you that pulls on everything to know what you need and what needs to happen. I think if you can be in touch with that part of you, then you absolutely have your own answers and you know what you need to do. I think what's often missing in our culture is the time and space. And again, I come back to that, to find that space within yourself.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree on that one. There's so many rules that we have around. It's not okay to spend time if we've got children, patients, clients,
Yeah,
in need. We're so, especially those of us that are in the service industry, we're so oriented to what other people need, and
yeah,
our needs always fall at the bottom of the list.
yeah. And if I
Ah! And then we're tired. And we're not really helping, we're dragging.
Exactly. You know, I've said probably 100 million times, if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else.
Absolutely.
And really, that taking care of yourself is just the first step. That's not, I think that's another thing that's beginning to happen, is people are beginning to recognize that they need to practice self-care, right? And that's become a commercialized thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I need to buy products to practice self-care.
Yeah.
That's not really what we need.
Well, what I'm hearing is it's really an approach to create the space to actually do the real work that needs to be done.
Yep.
And to what almost like, and I think of alternative or preventative therapies. It's like, okay, now that I'm in this space where I can see things more clearly and I can sense what my needs are or what the organizational culture might be if we're looking at that level, and you can see things in a place of being able to make change because that spaciousness and that receptivity to change is going to be there.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah.
So when I think about your journey into coaching and I think about all of the years you've spent in the therapy world,
Right.
how does it feel to have made that pivot?
I'm sorry, to what?
To have shifted from being a therapist to being a coach?
So it is super exciting. I have just finished my last intensive course with you, of course, and to see the ways that I can use a lot of the skills that I already have and adapt them so that they really fit the coaching model. And I think that's really important. That's the reason I decided I needed to get certified. Because, of course, you don't have to be certified to be a coach. And I could have just gone out and winged it. But I didn't want to end up just doing therapy and calling it coaching.
Yeah.
I wanted to really learn what coaching was really about. And what I've discovered is that while at one time in my life, I have to confess, I might have thought it was just like therapy light. It's not. It really is different. And I love that. I'm just excited.
And how would you say it's different? Because I get this question all the time and I'm like, I've taken a lot of therapy classes and I'm like, to me, it's like a whole different entry point and part where someone is in their journey. But I bet you know a lot more than I do on that one.
So I think of it as more a matter of, in therapy, you really do often try to figure out what's wrong. People come in believing there's something wrong with them. Mm-hmm. That's not always true. A lot of times I would discover there wasn't anything wrong with them. That wasn't the problem, but that's where it starts. What's wrong? What needs to change? What needs to be fixed? And coaching just doesn't have that approach. It is a much warmer recognition that we are all not broken. We are whole, resourceful, and complete in ourselves.
And we're building on our greatness.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And still addressing some of those blocks and still maybe going to therapy for some things, for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. And again, I'm certainly not anti-therapy. I loved doing therapy. And I'm excited about doing this. So, yeah.
Thank you. So I'm wondering, is there anything that we haven't kind of talked about that you would love to share?
I don't think so. I think we're good.
Okay.
that, you know, people are free to reach out if you're interested in learning more and want to talk sometime.
So what would be the best way to reach you?
So I am on Facebook. I am all over Facebook, in fact. Um,
You are. You're making me look really bad.
I have a website called faustasplacetoponder.com, and you are, of course, you can go there and read more about me and look at my blog and so on and so forth, and connect with me through there.
Yeah.
And you can also actually email me at faustasplacetoponder.com.
Perfect. I'll be sure to put all the details below. So
Cool.
I think spelling might be a bit of a challenge for some of us. I think.
Possible. Possible.
Oh. So just kind of re-emphasizing, you know, your people tend to be the frontline workers who are working in the trauma world, but also people that manage or supervise those people as well, that maybe want to look at how they could change the system.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm just curious if someone that wasn't necessarily identifying as that group, but happened to really feel comfortable with you,
Mm-hmm.
would you take on a client that maybe wasn't in that population?
I would. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that most of the people you're talking to are in that, you know, that you're working with, but just thinking, you know, you're such a fabulous coach. Just wanted to say that.
Thank you, ma'am. Honestly, I don't think there are any of us at this point that aren't being impacted by some kind of trauma. If you're on social media, terrible things happen. And because we're now really a global community, we know about them.
Yeah.
We see them. We watch them on videos, you know? And so, yeah, I can't imagine how you could not be touched by some of that.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. But
All
yes.
welcome.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for showing up and shining here. I love the fact that, again, just really, I'm always grateful when people want to come back and help their population, because it's, you know, you're going to be a mentor on some levels, but you're also going to know so much about what they're going through so that you're going to get them and really be able to point them in the places that they're going to get their resources met and bring out their best as well. So thank you so much for the work you do.
Well, thank you so much for having me here, and for the work you do with building coaches who are going to be providing amazing services in the world.
Thank you.
Super excited.
I always wonder, what if the world became more populated by people that were trying to help people? There's the ponder.
Exactly.
Oh, well, thanks again. I will be sure to share everything. Thanks again for just being who you are and doing what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.